Overwatch League that like aren't in tune with like why goats is good or like why you. So I think it's just like teeters like this fine line of like, yes, I where you're saying players should be cut. There is a world where that statement does directly lead to a player being cut. And so like that is like risky in itself. Like it's not gonna happen on Outlaws. I'm not defending Outlaws. I do think that we could have probably played like a DPS comp on Paris, but that's like a different argument. I just think it's like weird that you can like attack the coaching staff of a team as an analyst on like a basic fundamental level that like jeopardizes their integrity as a job. Yeah, I know, I understand. My point is that like in Owl, it's like it's far worse solely because of the maturity of like where everybody is.
I guess here's the thing though, is that here's my world. I understand what you're saying in terms of sensitivity to the system, and you're saying the consequences are bigger, but the common, as far as I can tell, is acting in line with what is in every sport. The problem here is basically you're saying the management of teams that cannot handle nor process the commentary in a good way, but to me that doesn't seem to say that the commentary has to change. More so it says that the management for teams needs to be
I mean
on better
it's both. It's both. But it's both, right? It's like I think that like the casters have more experience in esports than 90% of the management talent or management teams in the league, right? That's like I'd say that's pretty fair to say. Like,
I'm losing viewers? I had to mute myself. Bro, look, my viewers is climbing. My viewers is climbing, bro. You're straight wrong. You're straight wrong.
They have the expertise. My point is more along the lines of like, I don't think you can like expect everyone in Overwatch League to deal with the criticisms in their first season. Like I think last season I was a lot more emotional than this season, but it's like the toxic atmosphere of Overwatch League I do think is like pushed a little too hard in general by the talent, even if it's not on purpose. I think it creates a toxic atmosphere. And so like that has a negative impact on a lot of these people who aren't ready for it.
The management is very sensitive.
And so like last year Tyrone like had like points where he felt broken, right, by like Reddit
charge
or by
gladiator while playing.
And like now this season that doesn't happen. But the idea, I'm more like against the idea of it because like I can imagine what it's like if you're like a coach for, I don't know, if you're Valiant's coach right now.
He is never wrong. Just ask him.
But like maybe you can blame the system in some cases, but it's like some teams aren't mature enough to deal with that, or
I want to
even be able to like shut it.
Like yes, Valiant's getting barrage, but I feel like the need for coaching changes there. If they're doing it off commentary and not the fact that they started out 0-7 in stage 1.
I mean Valiant was probably the worst example I can give him, but my point was more
I feel
like
the record speaks louder than the commentary.
Yeah, but like that's like
your team is 0-7, you're trash. No, like the record alone is enough.
No, my point was more like. But once you start going 0-4, once you start going 0-3, some teams like crumble, some management is crumbling. It's very hard to be mentally strong in Overwatch League, I would say, from like a public perception perspective, because like your day in day out is Overwatch. You watch Overwatch, you spend the entire day watching Overwatch, and then the only thing you know is just like beating you down. Like you don't really have, there's no like escape for a lot of these people. Like if I enter my dog here, like, if you don't have Overwatch, it's just all Overwatch. So when Overwatch starts going bad, everything starts going bad, and so like that's kind of. I think that's different in sports. I'd say like in sports, most people probably have like families, lives, and a lot more money.
Well, I'll say this.
So it's like a different.
This isn't even an Overwatch specific thing. I think it's an esports to traditional sports thing. Is that in traditional sports, there's generally more security for players because just of the nature of like how long it takes to build up a player, how long it takes to sign them, the amount of money involved, etc. Like, I do get the entire idea that players, in general, like, and I don't really think it's, like, specifically related to commentary of any sort, but obviously players feel more fucking nervous because, like, the timetable's so accelerated that you can be in for, like, a stage and then never play again, and that's just because esports is a lot more fluid than traditional sports, so I totally understand why people are, like, stressed out and otherwise, right?
Yeah, I mean, my point, I guess my point being more along the lines of, like, I guess you made a good point there, too, because, like, if you look at it in a vacuum, if, like, someone's propping, if you're a coach, right, let's say you're a coach, and this happens a lot, there's, like, coaches who aren't super fully in-depth with,
What was that?
That was Yumi's phone.
No, that wasn't my phone.
Was that Flame's phone?
That was my phone.
Of any EVA player in Owlin has won a grand total of 3
the idea of like
maps this
let's
season,
say you're a
but
coach,
I
and
can't
there's definitely
criticize
inexperienced
him
coaches.
because I'm an outsider.
Fair, right? Fair statement to me. If like someone pushes this narrative that Super's the problem. Let's say Shock starts losing, and then like there's like this large Reddit narrative and coaching and analyst narrative that Super's the problem or Elk's the problem. And then they get benched because the casters are like, they start like specifically looking at this like, maybe they're right, let's try this, that, and the other thing, which does happen in Overwatch. Like, you can tell me it doesn't, or you can tell me it's not supposed to, which I agree, it shouldn't, but that does happen. So like, I agree that it's stupid that the casters can't say it, but I will say that it's equally stupid that the league is at an immature point in its life where these criticisms get taken far too far, which doesn't happen in normal sports or traditional sports because
I apologize on the behalf of all Houston fans.
Security thing. But if like your coach starts benching you because of these things, like everyone thinks you're bad and you shouldn't be playing and they should cut this player and then your career's just over, I think that happens in OWL. And I think it shouldn't happen in OWL, and I can definitely blame management for it happening in OWL. But the idea of it happening in OWL is bad. Like,
I just think
the idea that happens is bad, and so like I guess the casters aren't the way to like fix the problem, but I think that them pushing the narratives like makes the problem exacerbated, and it like it does at the end of the day negatively impact staff and players. Where I do agree that it shouldn't. I like 100% agree that it shouldn't. I 100% agree that it's not really the casters' fault, but I think that they can be more sensitive to the fact that the league isn't in a position where their narratives and like
Can you also
thoughts
put
can't be
Flame
pushed.
in the power rankings later?
I just think that you basically make narratives that it's in the heart, it's the problem of the management, not the casters, which already like from the casting point of view, that's kind of a checkmate in and of itself, right? But even beyond that, asking people to tone down commentary that is definitely still in line with other traditional sports and saying like to take heat off the fastball because management of other teams doesn't know what they're doing. I just, from the commentary perspective, I don't know.
But I'm saying is that an unfair assertion? I guess. Like maybe you're right. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass, right? Like maybe this whole thing doesn't make any sense. But
I think the dynamic of what you're talking about exists. I do think like commentary absolutely can influence players, specifically because what you're saying in terms of management not knowing what they're doing can be very real for certain teams. I just don't think the solution is that the commentators change up what they're doing. As a result, I think the solution is you need smarter management.
Flame has as much brain cells as Houston has wins. PagChomp Flame has as much brain cells as...
So it's like...
Houston
I just think the casters could be... I think that the commentary could be more sensitive to the
Houston has
conflict, to the
wins.
fact that it
PagChomp.
happens. It's very hard to be mentally... They're not aware that what they're saying does have these consequences. And maybe they don't care, and that's fine, but I don't think that that's fine. Like, I personally would not do that. And like, I've been on both sides of the desk, right? Like, I understand what's right and what's wrong.
Baby
and I've definitely
rich casters
told what's right and what's wrong, but I'd never say, I guess like a player's playing bad, but I would never say, get this player out of here. It's like, I don't know, it doubles back, but there's definitely a world where I feel like they can help the situation by not pushing the negativity, but
so
when
here's
the
the problem,
negativity gets pushed, it's like,
in terms of how you fill a specific analyst segment, right? I'll give you an idea how you can quickly get to the idea of, well, cut this player or bench this player, right? You're in an analyst segment and you get asked, the topic is, why is Team X struggling? And you go, well, they're struggling because of this, this, and this. And one of the things I mentioned is that, player X is not doing very well. Like, we talk about this, like, I get asked, why is MAM struggling? And then they go, well, MAM is struggling, part. Their off-tank play has been pretty subpar. And then the follow-up question is, so what should they do to fix it? The gut response in that case, because Zephyr is playing, like, really poorly, has to be, well, they should look into other options for Zephyr, which is essentially saying, cut Zephyr. But that's actually the response that most anyone would have to that situation, right? To get off the Zephyr example. So for a baseline analysis segment, I don't know how you dance around the issue of saying to cut Zephyr.
Flames
like, I don't think you can dance around that.
Seagulls in chat. Seagulls in chat, guys.
There's different
Seagulls here.
There's different ways of like explaining it, because maybe Zephyr's not good in this meta. That's fine. Like Coolmat, realistically, we didn't play Coolmat last season because he wasn't doing well in Goats, but now he's doing fine. But like, if we were playing poorly last season with Coolmat, the solution wouldn't be cut Coolmat. It would be give Coolmat more time to adjust to this meta, or try something else because Coolmat, it's not working out for him, right? And you could like make that statement without being like, get Coolmat off the team, replace him at a base level, remove his salary and his livelihood. It's like a different
Flames reputation Pepalot
like,
point
it's a different
underscore
push.
right
It's a different like, oh, try this other player that's on your bench maybe out on this role.
Flames
which I think is a
reputation
fine statement to make,
point
especially if it's like a
underscore
blatant
right
case,
chart
effort.
underscore
But the idea of like
underscore downwards underscore trend.
and this player's livelihood is
Flames
different.
reputation
And so
point
that's where I guess I
underscore
kind of draw the
right
line.
chart
But I just think it's weird.
underscore downwards
The whole point of
underscore
today was like I
trend.
just felt it was awkward or bizarre that the casters felt that they could coach better than the coaches.
Flame graduated
'Cause, like, I
from
find
the
that just
University
inherently
of
wrong.
Waterloo with a PhD
I don't think they've ever
in
made
ethics in
the
video game.
I mean,
Journalism.
I can't speak to any specifics here, but I think that's not usually the way the commentary comes down. I think that they have a take saying it. Like in this here, the baseline story was basically no one is going to beat Titans right now at Goats v Goats. They're too strong. The only success anyone's seen against Titans is running something else, is basically what they ran with, which objectively, that has been the case.
Flames
going into it
locked us in a
is probably where that came
space-time
from. And
continuum.
I
I've
don't
been
know.
sent here to beg you to stop
I
him
guess
at
for
all
me is that
cost. If you
commentary,
fail, all
their
life
job
on Earth
is
will
here's what we've
perish.
seen on matches, here's what has worked, here's what hasn't, and make
Delete
judgments
the
from there
VOD
on out.
flame
That's,
is
Well, yeah, I mean, if
coming.
Vancouver
Delete
had
the
ever
VOD
lost, I'd
flame
like
is
probably
coming.
see
Delete
value
the
in that. But
VOD flame is
Vancouver hasn't lost.
coming. Delete the VOD
So like, but
flame
my
is
point was
coming.
that
Delete
I don't
the
think
VOD
I don't think the way
flame
we
is
played
coming.
today was. I don't think there was any other strategy that we could have employed that would have had a higher success rate.
Flame
than Goats
has
on,
as
like,
much
Icon
brain
Ball.
wrinkles as Outlaws have a
Rialto,
good Zen
which is
player and a
lost,
Tracer
yes.
player.
But that's not. The way that the commentary comes out, it pushes the narrative that Outlaws coaching doesn't know what they're doing, or that Outlaws didn't do everything in their power to win this match, and that it was a complete strategical error, which I think is just wrong. So like, can I say that I think that that's wrong? Like, I don't.
You can
I mean,
indeed.
you can, but why would you?
You
What's
can
the point?
indeed.
Like, what do you get out of it?
He
Like,
can
what,
say- you
you're
can say
saying
it.
that you disagree. Like, well, what does that do for you? I'm just curious. I want to know.
My
Okay.
Point, my point wasn't to defend myself though. It was like, I mean, realistically, I shouldn't have tweeted. You got me right. Like, I agree. I shouldn't have tweeted. But the idea that the like Reddit or like that the hive mind pushed the narrative of Outlaw staff doesn't know what, like the coaches don't know what they're doing, is like a terrible take that could propel into like a very negative experience for a lot of people.
well,
and so,
to be fair, one thing I think there is.
I think if anyone can defend it, it's me, because I'm not in a position where I even decided the strategy. So it's just my take. Like, can I analyze my own team? I don't know. It's like I've analyzed other teams. I tweet about other team strategies and like what they've done, but I think that it's my own take to push that we did our best to win,
what you've just
and that
said
we
is
weren't
one of the
actively
most
throwing. But like, I
insanely
don't know.
idiotic
It's just
things
like a
I have
post-match
ever
tweet. You
heard.
can post whatever. You can post like,
At no
sorry we
point
lost.
in
You
your
can post like,
rambling,
I don't know,
incoherent
whatever you want.
response
I
were
just
you
felt like
even close to
it
anything
made
that
sense to defend the idea that
could be
Goats was the best
considered
play
a
there.
rational
But I don't really
thought.
have time to sit here and like
Everyone
make a YouTube
in
video
this
about
chat
like
is now dumber
why
for
DPS is
having
not going to
listened
work
to
on Icon Wall.
I
So,
So one
award
thing
you
you remind me
might
of,
be the
and
next
this is something that
wins,
maybe
and
is a
may Emmy
good like
have
bridge
mercy
gap moment
on your
to
soul.
like address both sides, is that one thing that you don't see as much is like post-game interviews
Avast just
playing as
picked
big
up
role,
20%
particularly with
more
like
viewers
coaches
during
and
this from
management,
the
right? Where
beginning
you
of
get to the end of
Legion.
an NFL game, and then there's plenty of times where coaches or where analysts and broadcasters will totally put a team on blast during the game,
I just
and then you'll get to the
graduated from
post-match interview with the
college,
coach and
got
be
a
like,
career,
"So, coach, you
retired
kept
at
doing
60.
running plays even though you
And
got
I'm on my
nothing with it.
deathbed, and
What
this
was the
kid
logic
is
there?" And
still
you'll get a
talking.
response saying like, "Well, we thought we were going to get destroyed on the pass, so that was our only choice." And generally
Flames
it ends
has
right
as
there,
much
right? Where it'll be like,
chromosomes as
"Well,
Hux
on the coach
management.
today, Coach Andy Reid said blah blah blah." So I mean, I feel like you're almost making the argument for like stronger post-game press conferences that are involved as part of the broadcast or some
Imagine being
manner
a
of sort.
general manager for a
Well, I
Cal
mean, there's
team
just
and
never
crying
a
about
time
words.
where, I mean, they only talk to the winners at the end of the match. So I
Bro,
understand why
sane
there's no
girl.
do losers and
Chill. Sane girl,
losers.
1,000 bits along with the gifted
But I do
subs.
think it is kind of bizarre. that,
But
like,
Chill,
Outlaws,
sane girl.
There's a match
don't
and then
know
it's
what
just
Thanks,
like,
I
they're
appreciate
it's, like,
it. But we're
expected
just
to
having a
just
laugh.
play
We're having a
there's no
giggle.
interview. There's no like questions being asked. It's just like here. It's just like, okay, bye, and then it's just
Well,
like
the
you
thing
just
is
get
because the
roasted,
interview's
you walk
happening
out,
right
and
after, you
keep
don't want to
commenting
do a
that something
losers
is
interview
awkward.
right
No, I
after,
agree,
like,
I agree,
immediately
I
after,
agree.
because it's
So
like,
bad that I
you
had
just
to
lost the
lay
game.
down.
How are you doing? It's like, I feel like shit. I lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
A classic
still
press
You know what?
interview,
We're
that's
gonna.
like
You know what?
nothing
I'm
to do with
cutting in
match
here.
service.
I'm cutting in
Flame
here. I'm cutting in here, guys. Boink told me to ask you something very important, Flame, and also because I want to stop your spiral. I want to stop your nosedive. So, what do you think about teams using more May?
Tell Flame to subscribe
Oh my
to your
God.
stream so he can finally be a wrinkle
I like
brain.
me.
You like Mei?
But I don't make the strategical points here, else Outlaws will be playing Mei Goats. That's the real kicker here.
Okay.
Mei Goats is good versus Baptiste Goats, but not so good.
Ooh, well, I have to say, this has been a good convo, but let's, any closing remarks? Any closing remarks here? Do we have anything else to add?
Okay, class, for homework,
no, I regret tweeting, but I don't regret
essay on today's lecture.
I don't think the message
Remember
was wrong.
MLA
I think,
citation.
I definitely tweeted incorrectly, but I definitely think that the idea of
Avast has a cardboard
commentary
box palace
negatively
thanks to all
impacting
these
players and staff's
drops,
careers
flame.
is a very big problem in the Overwatch League specifically. And I wish that there was a way to solve it that didn't involve
Gladiators, one map, one by the way.
better management, but I think Overwatch is too new of a game to have that solved already. There's a lot of people in power positions that maybe weren't ready. I wasn't ready last year, but
I love you, Avast, but I think my brain has gotten smoother than a bowling ball listening.
Impacting a lot of people's lives, and
This
I do think that the casters do propagate it at an alarming rate that doesn't need to exist in general. But I don't think it's every caster. I don't think it's everybody. I don't see Mitch or Mr. X attacking players or staff on Twitter, but...
So do you think there are specific people that do it?
I think that there's enough specific people that do it that it's become a norm and that people think it's okay, but I think that it is having very large negative side effects that are impacting people's careers on a legitimately large scale, to the point where it's enough of a problem that all the players and staff talk about it amongst themselves on a daily basis.
During this
do you think there are specific teams that impacts more, or are you just saying it's an overall Overwatch League
Flame
problem?
Continues his argument.
And in fairness, I do feel like if Flame that's specifically just going to be calling out certain teams.
Yeah, I don't want to call out certain teams, but you can definitely say that there's been there's definitely been hires made off of Reddit. There's also definitely been trades declined because of Reddit. And that's a different argument, but the point is that the fact that the hive mind is influencing careers is a bad situation to be in, but it's one that exists and is it's real. So I don't think that it's the caster's fault that the situation exists, but I think the fact that the situation exists needs to be addressed.
Okay, I'm just going to say Aunt Monty was right. Goats versus Titans was stupid. Hey, Avast, what's up?
Almost 2K Pog. Almost 2K Pog. Is that a Flame subscription?
It's an unfortunate problem that doesn't have a solution, but the fact that the unfortunate problem exists should be acknowledged and probably.
Flame, did you just subscribe?
No, do you want me?
No,
someone gave a sub.
Oh, someone gave Flame a sub. Nice.
Hell yeah.
Good subscription. Nice. Thank you for the gifted sub, bro.
In Avast's chat.
Wait,
you too can be a wrinkle brain by subscribing to
you have your emotes now.
By using
Han Bammer. Thanks, Han Bammer.
Here's what I'll say again to it, and it is somewhat going in circles, but just speaking in general for commentary.
Oh, we have not even completed the full circle yet, ZP. You just keep going, okay? We just keep going here. We're gonna have the world's longest circle soon enough, boys. Guinness, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Guinness?
Look, in the end here, I get the impact of all this and otherwise the stuff that definitely happens. I just don't think you can ask commentators or commentary in general, any sporting circumstance. People are going to get things right. People are going to get some things wrong. Hopefully in most cases there's a lot more right than wrong. But asking people whose job is to commentate on the game, be passionate about the game, and have strong opinions about the game to nerf themselves specifically because management cannot handle themselves, I don't think that's a bridge you can cross, nor is something that probably should be crossed in regards to that.
I just think it's a sad situation. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think that Monty. It's not gonna affect Tyrunk's career. It's not gonna affect the player's career. It's not gonna affect mine, right?
Okay, Flame.
But the idea of it affecting other players' careers is it's sad, but it's real, and I can't fix it. I can't help them. I can't go to every team's manager and be like, hey, in this situation, I don't think that this opinion is correct.
I apologize on behalf of Outlaw fans.
I think there are times where you probably can, and maybe someone has a lot of inside information and they can make assertions. But I think when you start making assertions that are just dangerous, and
what up, Boink? Thanks for the subscription, bro. I asked him about Mei.
Truth.
I asked him, Boink.
100% correctness. Then you start treading this fine line in Overwatch League where you start you can just directly break a player's career, and this isn't like a problem that only I see. Like there's a lot of the players talk about it a lot, and it's like scary. And I guess today was just another one of those situations where it directly affected my team, or it was like involving my team. But just like
long ago, members
it didn't need to be
of
my
Discord
team.
call
I just felt
lived
like
together
it was,
in harmony. Then
it's
everything
just not a
changed
good
when
thing
Flame
to be
joined.
happening. I
Only
don't know
a
how to
vast
explain it more.
master
It's
of
just
memes
on
could
like a base
stop
level,
him.
I have like a
But when
moral
the
problem
chat
with
needed him
that
most,
like
he muted
makes me
himself.
not okay.
100 years
But maybe
passed,
it's not my
but I
battle to
believe
fight.
the
It
vast
probably
can
isn't my
kick
battle to
Flame.
fight, but I wish
I
someone
mean,
was fighting
if you
the
want
battle.
to be pure Machiavellian about this, technically speaking, it's your battle to win from the perspective that if you are someone who really knows what they're talking about, and the other management is making stupid decisions and is letting things like
No, it's not
of
about me. It's
affect
not
them
about
more than like their own scrim results and otherwise. Like in theory, that should benefit you as being a team that isn't falling prey to that.
But it's
like,
it's
if
not
I'm being pure Machiavellian, I know you're speaking
yeah, but
like
it's
overall
but I'm
empathy
saying,
for
but
the
it's not
players.
it's not about just players being like benched or like released. It also just like the perception that this player is bad, which happens a lot, and like sometimes teams lose and then someone will put a blame on this specific player and then they're like, oh well, you know, this player would have been better, or this team would have been better if this player didn't play poorly, and then the entire narrative is that this player threw the match and didn't play at their best.
Right finger,
and then it sticks with them for like the entirety of like,
brain
the year.
right finger,
And that's
pile
already
of
happened
poo
multiple
flames,
times.
brain
It's just, I don't know.
right finger, pile
It's
of
not.
poo
It's definitely not my battle to fight. And like I can definitely
brain
profit off of it.
right finger,
right? But
pile of poo flames,
I think,
brain
like,
pepala,
I
right
just have, like,
finger,
a
pile of poo flames,
moral
brain
problem with it.
pepala,
I
Right
feel
finger,
like
very-
at the
pile
end of the
poo.
day, the management that would fire people based off analysts saying that someone should be fired, it doesn't matter if they say that or not because they still have to criticize that player whether or not they're
But
going
do you
to.
think? I agree. But do you think that there
Already,
haven't been
Pepala.
players who have been like harshly criticized for like losses, and then like it translated
Remember
into people being
when
like, oh,
we
this
were
player's
talking
bad.
about Overwatch?
I mean,
I don't know.
Me neither.
I just think it like negatively impacts their careers, and it's harsher on the 17 and 19-year-olds in the Overwatch or 19-year-olds in the Overwatch league than like in normal sports. And I guess I don't need to be Robin Hood. I don't need to be Robin Hood. But like in my head, it feels wrong to let it happen. But I guess like in reality, I should just let it happen and not care. But it feels
like you
weird
have to
me
be a
that it
real
happens.
peanut brain to let one loss like if
No,
you're
no,
if you
it's not the. All right,
no, I mean, I'm not calling you a peanut brain. I'm saying I feel like you have to be a peanut brain to think that if the one, let's say like I fucked up really bad in the match and I made us lose a match, right?
Mhm.
I feel like if you were to say, oh, Super's a goddamn garbage player because he lost his team the game, get him out of here. Like I feel like that, like the level of the amount of mass you have in your brain, it's not a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
agreed.
But I would say that if you,
This
let's say
just
you were
in.
on, let's swap you with
Flames,
Muma
who
for a
dubbed
second,
himself
right?
has
Because like
reached China,
Muma
and
didn't
he
play
has
well in
been
World
named
Cup, and that's the
GM of
narrative.
Guangzhou
Muma's awful.
Charge.
Super should have played World Cup, and that's like the storyline everyone goes with, right? It's like the same thing, and I don't think it affects Muma, but that
I
same
have to give
situation
it
happens to other
Flame.
players,
He
and I
makes
think they
Mayhem's
crumble.
management look good.
My
Pepala.
point, I can't solve it, right? And like maybe it's just like this Robin Hood mentality
I
that
don't.
doesn't
Well,
need
to be
exist.
clear, I don't.
My
think
point is
you
that like
can
people
solve it
are
'cause,
getting
like, players. There's plenty of stories in traditional sports of players crumbling because they couldn't take the pressure on going from like high school to college.
Yeah,
to,
agreed. I mean, you're
pro.
probably right.
Like,
Agreed. Maybe
like,
maybe at
it's
the end of the
literally
day,
part
I'm
of
just
professional
wrong.
Sports
Like,
that, like, not every player is going to have the mental. Like,
Look
it
at these
goes
ugly,
any
sloppy general
competition period.
managers.
Players are going to boom. Like players boom. It's as old as time. It's been happening before we were born. It will continue to happen long after we're in the ground.
Yeah,
like
I feel you.
if you're in a competition, people gonna boom. Like it's not even Overwatch specific. I feel like.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, maybe it's just like my defensive nature of the like mentally weak people in the league. Maybe like it's not my battle at all.
Computer
Like I probably
animated
just shouldn't
comedy
care. I just
film
feel like
loosely based on the
it's a
1990
problem, kind of, and maybe it's
fairy
not.
tale
Maybe
picture
it's okay,
book of
but
the same name by
I just
William
hate seeing
Steig.
people like
Directed by
mentally
Andrew
destroyed because
Adamson
of,
and
like,
Vicky
the few
Jensen in
comments of
their
a couple
directorial debuts.
and like that kind of.
It stars Mike
Well, then what?
Myers,
I mean,
Eddie
shouldn't those
Murphy,
people probably
Cameron
like
Diaz,
understand the career they're
and
getting
John
into?
Lithgow as the voices.
I'm not
of
gonna
the
lie.
main
Like if
characters.
you're
No, I
going
mean
into
you're right. You're right.
public
It's like I
light,
mean
like,
you're not
Other
wrong.
films
You're
adapted
like you're
from
definitely right.
fairy
It's
tale
just I guess
storylines.
it's easier to say that than to
Primarily
do
aimed
that,
at
and I think
animated
it's easier
Disney
to.
films.
I think it's easier to deal with for some people, and I think that like the league is so young
Flame
that
won't
like
stop until the heat
not
death
everyone's
of the
ready for
universe
it.
occurs.
But at the same time, these people need to succeed because I don't think the management on every single team is perfect, but I don't think that there's a lot of people that you can say, oh, you can
Keep it
replace this person
together,
with someone
Avast.
else, because I don't think that there's a lot of qualified people in general. And like maybe that's the bigger problem, but that's like kind of been my angle of it, is like I feel like the league is so young and the people are so new at their jobs, and like the concept of everything is so new that like propagating negativity doesn't really benefit anybody, because not a lot of people are ready to deal with it. And like, that's maybe at the end of the day, that's kind of the problem with the Overwatch League now. But in 5 years, it probably won't be a problem because everyone will have developed thick skin. But right now, I don't think it's fair to like expect everyone to have thick skin initially. And like, I think the pressure gets propagated too much from like 1 or 2 posts or tweets or something. Or,
so you think skin is only going to develop thicker over time and sort of an Overwatch evolution? It's not without game design changes that the skin will get thicker. That's what's required, because hasn't skin been thick for eternity in other sports? Or like, why do we have to wait for the league to mature for the skin to get thicker here? What exactly, like, what changes as the league gets older with player personalities and types? Like, what happens? What's the difference? I'm trying to figure it out. Like, why should the league being older impact players' mentalities?
No, but it's not just players. It's like, I mean, today's example was staff. But like, I don't think everyone in Overwatch League has had an esports job before.
When we
like,
have Flame and the throwers
manager.
from Houston, am I right?
Like, the idea of like having this now 100,000 or 400,000 or a couple million people like on your ass is like very new. I mean, like, my day-to-day very much is like keeping the mental health of everyone like healthy, I guess, on the team, right? And my job is very hard. Like, that is a very hard task to accomplish all the time. My point is, I don't think I deal with it poorly, but I would say that there's probably people who get mentally broken faster. But I think that the age of the league, like, the longer you're dealing with it, the better you'll become at it. But I think some people get shit on way too hard initially, and like it's like super overwhelming. I mean, I don't know. You're probably like, at the end of the day, when I hear myself talk, it's probably more just me being defensive of like the younger and like less experienced players, and like the idea of people getting shit on every day and like having to deal with that.
My job is very hard. I tweet
and then
like a
feeling like maybe
Redditor
too
and
much
get
of it's
paid.
coming from the caster desk, but maybe there is no solution and it's not even worth fighting. But I do think that like the problem exists and no one really talks about it, and then everyone just kind of like allows it to go on. But I don't know if it needs to be as bad as it is, or if it needs to be as prevalent as it is.
So do you think this is a widespread, you would talk to every Overwatch League team and you would find players that agree that the casters or the analysts are being too harsh and it has hurt their careers, or the staff in those within?
Yeah.
You think that it is 100% true that everyone would agree with that, and that the organizations themselves have had and the staff or the players have been impacted by the casters and analysts on the Overwatch League broadcast?
Yes.
Aye. Well, I mean, I'm a fair person. If that is true, then maybe something has to be examined, but maybe you don't examine it within the broadcast. You examine it.
I agree. But it's, I mean, it's a league-wide thing. It's not like this isn't like a Flame versus casters thing, right? It's like me versus like.
No, you're saying that you're the mouthpiece of everyone that has been hurt by the casters, or analysts, is what it sounds like. It's not you specifically.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't care if people are shitting on me. Like,
you're sort of the Joan of Arc for this cause, and you're over here looking to get reformation.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen, but realistically, I don't really. There's no benefit to the Outlaws from me arguing, right? It's like, who cares? We'll just play GOATS again. Like, I mean, maybe one day we'll play DPS comp just to like make everyone happy, or maybe it'll work against a certain team, but it's not gonna work against Vancouver. But point being, I do think that like there's a league-wide consensus that the casters have been too harsh on some players and have had players' careers in their hands a little too much more than I would say other esports, or it feels like that in a way. But I think that a lot of that propagates from the fact that like Overwatch League community is pretty small on the grand scale, so like everything that's on broadcast winds up on Reddit. And the Reddit hive mind is like very similar to the Twitter hive mind in the users, I would say. So everything that like spreads pretty thoroughly. There's probably people on Twitter that don't read Reddit, and there's probably people on Reddit that don't read Twitter, but it doesn't feel that way, I guess.
Add Flame to the call.
And I think that makes sense because of just how small the Overwatch community is and like how tight knit a lot of the viewership is. I think I could say yes.
I feel like there's a standard here that the commentators should always, like, and again, I'm not, this is broad spectrum, nothing specific one way or another, but the standard being applied here that you're trying to apply to Overwatch content is that, you know, it should always be right every time, all the time. But the reality is that coaches and staff get things wrong all the time. Like, everyone gets everything wrong all the time because A, it's involving esport, and B, like, that's how it is in a sport. Like, there's terrible management even to this day in the NFL. There's takes that are not necessarily right, you know, left, right, and center. But the point is, commentary-wise, no one's going to get it right all the time. But also the management side, neither is the management. But when it comes to the job of the management is to find good players, put them on the team, etc. I don't think that the commentary side should be held liable for decisions.
No, I mean, I think I've already gotten past that point. Like, I don't think the blame can be put on the casters. I just think that, like, there is a serious problem that exists. Like, I don't think that you can blame the casters for the problem, but I think that the problem exists solely because of the ecosystem that we're in, and it's not their fault, and it's probably not their place to fix it, quote unquote. But I think everyone being aware of it is a start, because maybe it'll impact the word usage, or maybe like how hard they go on somebody or something. But like, to say that
I promise not all of us outlaws.
I've dug myself a pretty deep hole here, right? Because now I've gone to the point where
yes, you have.
Every team.
Yes, you have. You have indeed dug yourself quite a hole.
But the hole here, I don't think is like, I'm not saying anything that's like inherently offensive. I just feel like this problem exists, and you could ask players on every team if they feel like the casters have ever shit on them to the point where it hurt their standings or the way the public perceives them or anything like that, and they would say yes. And I think that problem gets like amplified in Overwatch League because of how small the entire like community is. And so like there's very few fans you don't get to see your like home stadiums yet, right? But if like Reddit's shitting on you and Twitter's shitting on you, it's very rare that they're not in line, I guess. So it's not the caster's fault, but I would say that the reality of it is that the casters can create problems that maybe they're not meaning to create, and maybe they shouldn't be creating, but they are creating solely because of the state of like where everybody is in the league.
So the flip side to this, I will say, from the casting point of view, is that I know for me and for my work, I constantly over-obsess over getting things right, because the reality is that I do think like casters do wield like pretty good power, but on the same note, if you ever say something wrong that's definitively wrong, that hive mind that you're saying is like marching to the beat of the casters is going to jump down the caster's throat in a nanosecond as soon as they say something objectively wrong. So like, I don't caster, like, if your argument is okay, casters influence opinion, you know, to a degree of like going from like a hot to a very hot. It's not the argument though. It's not the argument. From the caster point of view, I don't think you can like create something out of whole cloth that isn't necessarily there in a lot of cases, because there's countless examples of casters just getting their like junk kicked in by Reddit when they're wrong.
Yeah, my point wasn't that the casters are doing something like inherently atrocious. My point is that the way that I understand that the casters have every right to say, you know, cut this player, or this player is underperforming, or, you know, this team should have ran this strategy because of this, that, and that makes sense. That's fine. My point was that we've hit a point, there's definitely a line that can be crossed where you start questioning the integrity of the staff or the player themselves.
Wait, I thought you said that was the line, though. I thought you said the line of B that was already crossed was saying that someone deserves to be cut. Now you're saying it's okay? I don't know.
Hello.
No, my point was that, like,
I used Alpro a couple months
if they want to say that, in reality, in sports, it's fine. And it's not a line that they can't cross because they're commentators. But I would say in Overwatch League, it's bad. It's like, in Overwatch League specifically, it is a line that is crossed because of how bad, like, the scene is on, like, a base management and, like, fan size level. Like, I don't like them saying it. I understand they have the right to say it, and that they can say it because they're paid to say stuff like that. My point is that when they do say that, in Overwatch League, it leads to a lot of bad things that maybe they're not aware of or they don't think is happening.
What the hell is he even saying anymore? I think
the problem is there, and I don't know that I can solve it. I don't think anyone can solve it. But the point is that the hive mind is so small and the management is so new, and a lot of people are very not in tune with the way the league is.
My point was that our point wasn't that point when our point was that we did our point.
That when it starts impacting people, it's probably more so than in the NFL or in the NBA. Like, I don't think that these people... It's just like a different thing. It's like a bunch of kids getting barraged by like this small group of like 500,000 people or something that are all listening to the same, you know, like 20 Reddit accounts or Twitter accounts. And so it like just makes their lives harder. There's no, I can't solve it, right? I can't fix it. And like maybe that's the lesson here, is that I can't fix it. But I just think that like pretending that it's not real is like dangerous. And I don't really like that everyone pretends that it's not real or that it's not
Punch
happening.
Trees
Or that,
Flame
you know,
is trying
everyone's,
to
like,
dig
flawless
through
here.
bedrock. Punch Trees, how does someone agree with every counterpoint?
I can't
Continue
fix
to
the
make the
problem
exact
of people
same
losing
argument
their
for
jobs
2
because of Reddit
hours.
comments or analyst comments. I can't, but I can acknowledge that that's a problem
Bumper
and try
stared
my
at the
best
burger
not
in
to
his hand.
push that narrative.
Normally, you
Solely
love
because I know
chowing
that it
down on
happens,
his
whether or
Big
not I
Mac.
want it to or not.
Like he chowed on these beta
make
tanks
sense?
like SW.
Wait, is that Jane? Is that Jane, chat?
But not today.
Is that Jane? Is he in here?
Burger
Is he
was a
back?
sign of his
Let's
failure.
Flame. What do you think about talking
Double patties of
to?
meat reminded
Okay.
not
Let's see. What's it,
of
Jane? Let's how
succulent
gets you in the
but
combo,
only the
Jane?
mighty vein
Let's
get you in
vascular
here.
Muscles of amming.
Let's see what Jane has
Holy.
to say. Let's see
He
what
said he's in
Jane.
an Uber. He said he's in an Uber.
He's in an Uber? God damn it.
Inclusion
Okay.
of
Flame, go on.
flames
Keep
get
on.
hurt when
Continue
the
going on
castings
here.
are mean.
Okay.
No, I mean, that was it. That's all
Oh,
I
that's
have.
it. We're done.
It makes
That's
me
all
feel
he
bad.
had.
Oh,
Unless you
that's
have
it, huh?
any questions?
Oh.
I mean, you guys milked me. I
Oh.
can rant
Okay,
forever. But
we're
my
done.
point,
Okay.
my
I'm
point was
glad
more.
Owl
I
has
don't know.
diversity.
I would be down
Nice
to talk
to
to
see
Jane,
them
but I
hire
would like to hear
disabled
his take on
GMS.
it. I guess because
Woo!
he knows what's.
Whew. Okay. Well, that's it, huh? That's it. Well, I think we covered a lot of
We
important
finally got
ground
to see a
today.
vast torso.
And I mean, really, we've seen the evidence from both sides, and we'll see what develops. We'll see what develops
Not
from there.
much.
Maybe
Yeah,
the
not
reason
much. Nothing
Houston never
intelligent's gonna
really
come
got
from
good
it.
is
This
because
joint.
they're too busy listening.
Who's that?
Hi, I'm Adam Scrims.
Oh,
Flame
Swimmer,
lost
you're
his
you're.
scrim.
How have the games been?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know myself. I'm
mean,
more of a
it's-
not game watcher. I'm more
It's
of a.
Vlad's first charge. Like, I'm not one that say like, hey, we should cut